Well, hello, my friends, and happy Sunday to you. This is Shawn Petite, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Look at this beauty, this fall beauty. Here are the supplies that we're using today. So I'm starting the project today on a 12 by 12 MDF board, and I have gathered some papers, and I've got some vintage wallpapers down. And I originally had a different thought for this piece when I started. And it just kind of evolved, and I love it when that happens. So I'm putting all of my vintage wallpapers and papers down with my DecoArt matte medium, and I'm just kind of trying to, at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to be dividing my space between the top, like vintage wallpaper, and then table on the bottom. But that didn't exactly go as planned, and that's okay. It turned out wonderfully. You don't really end up seeing most of the vintage wallpapers, and that's okay. I love the progress that this piece took. So I'm taking some DecoArt gesso, and I've watered, my brush is really wet, and I've just kind of watered it down because still at this point, I wanted those vintage papers to show through. And then when I kind of saw that kind of chalky feel and the pumpkins, things started to change. So I brought out the Chalky Gesso in gray, and this is the premium Americana paint in a slate gray. And the Chalky Gesso I'm using on the top. And as soon as I put that down, I knew I wanted to go more rustic, kind of farmhouse feel. And then I really got my direction for this piece. You can see I love the Chalky Gesso is basically made for, underneath your pieces, but it works so well as a top layer for your projects. This is the slate gray on the bottom, and I'm adding some of that Chalky Gesso to it so I can get that same kind of chalky feel. Then I wanted a little bit of variety, so I added a little bit of Payne's Gray and a fluid acrylic, again mixed in with that chalky gray gesso. And just to kind of get that same kind of matted, really kind of textural feel for the whole piece. So lots of new stencils out for fall. This is the farmhouse picture, and I positively love this. I will be using this many, many times. I just love it. I'm just using now a combination of Chalky Gesso in the white and the Titan Buff fluid acrylic, just because I wanted I didn't want it to be completely white. I wanted there to be some variation in color as I put this down. And I will continue to mix that white Chalky Gesso, regular gesso, and the Titan Buff to get my variations of color throughout this piece. So again, I'm using stencils as my guide, so I put my stenciled image down, and then I paint it in to give it that real painted feel without all the work. So this is the pumpkins. There's a lot of pumpkin varieties, and large and small and round and all those kinds of things in the new stencils. And I'm using more Titan Buff in this one, in with my gesso, mixed in with my gesso. Everything's mixed today with Chalky Gesso or regular gesso. And it's all DecoArt products. But I'm using more Titan Buff so that I have some difference between the picture and the background. And I started out with regular gesso on this pumpkin, and I knew I needed it to be different. I needed it to be more of that gray, to bring in some of that gray from the background. And so I just used the Americana Premium Slate Gray for that pumpkin. And I wanted, it was feeling really, really cold, and I knew I was going kind of in that rustic direction, and so I knew I wanted to warm it up a little bit. So I grabbed some raw umber and just watered it down and did a wash around the piece, and it just kind of warmed it up and gave it that, my favorite grungy kind of feel. And I just kind of wiped it back and left it real kind of raw. I grabbed some more of that slate gray premium Americana paint and just laid it down with my brayer for the background to grunge it up a little bit more. This is the fall leaves stencil. It comes with masks. It's so fun. And I wasn't going to put down leaves at first. And then I was like, yeah, it needs something. And so I struggled a little bit getting the colors right because I wanted it to be really muted. So I'm using a combination of fluid acrylics and gesso. And so I've got quinacridone gold and transparent red iron oxide. All the supplies will be listed on the blog. And so I am just laying all of that down, trying to mix those colors with the leaves. And now I'm up to the cotton, and this is one of the new stencils as well, and I'm just in love, love, love. So I put it all down with gesso, which gives it a good base to go back over and do your painting. It adds highlights just naturally without even trying. And so it works. This style of stenciling works really well for me because I'm always painting over it. So having that gesso underneath blocks out the background a little bit and gives your stenciling a little bit more substance. Plus, I'm using the stencil just how I want it. So I'm taking little bits and pieces of each design and using it exactly the way I want it in the vase, and not taking the stenciled design and image at face value, but breaking it up and using it exactly how I want it. And that's how I always use my stencils, and that's how I design them as well. So just filling all that in, and now all the magic happens. So now I'm just going to come back in and just add all the shading, all the highlights, all the lowlights. And again, I'm using the same materials. I used very little supplies for this. The Chalky Gesso in white and gray, and the Americana Premium paint in gray, and then 4, maybe 5 colors of fluid acrylic mixed in with that gesso, with all the different Chalky Gessos. And I'm just adding my highlights and lowlights to the piece and just kind of filling it in and giving it that painterly feel. And I love using my stencils this way. Again, all of the supplies will be listed on the blog, and the link to the blog is down below in the YouTube description box. The stencils that I'm using today, even though they're brand new, will be on sale and available to you if you would like them just this week. And of course, you can grab all the other. There's some really good ones, and I'm going to have some. I have a couple of tutorials, just mini tutorials coming up using them. So lots of fun. So now I'm coming up to the cotton, and I'm just filling in and making them brighter and whiter, and again giving it that painterly feel, not so perfect, not so stenciled, and then coming back in with raw umber and going over the stems and over that cotton, that little bit of like almost wood-like thing that happens in cotton, and really filling those in and giving them some personality. And what I love about having the white underneath is it, again, adds just this natural highlight, even in the stems. I love how it looks and works when you're painting over your stenciled images. So I'll just continue to add the dark parts to my cotton stems. And then once I've done that with the raw umber, I come back in with carbon black and really darken them up a little bit to give them a little bit more substance, to make them stand out, depth and dimension. And in real life, the cotton stems are really super dark. So this just added a little bit of pop to the cotton stems. Now I'm just going to start adding some fine details and some shading, some additional shading colors to my face, to my leaves, to my pumpkins. I'm using raw umber and really not a whole lot more. The colors and the supplies that I used for this were super, super simple. Taking some raw umber here and just kind of watered down and smearing it, and I love the look, love it. Really giving it a vintagey antique feel without it feeling completely covered with the raw umber. I struggled a little bit with the gray pumpkin, finding the right depth and giving it enough dimension. And so I went with the Payne's Gray fluid acrylic in the creases just to give it a little bit more depth and dimension. And of course I'll come back and I'll do my shading with my charcoal pencil, which really is the magic and the wow to this piece. But I hope that you check out all the stencils, and don't forget that they're all linked below in the YouTube description box. And now I'm just going to start shading absolutely everything. And it is what really makes this piece pop. I'm using a General's charcoal pencil in extra soft. And that's really it, my friends. I will continue to shade with my charcoal pencil, and then I'll add just a few highlights with some Soho soft pastels. I love using soft pastels to add highlights and just additional bits of color, because you can really control how much you're putting down, and if you don't like it, you can wipe it right up. And so I'll add a little bit with some soft pastels, some highlights and lowlights and different things like that. And that's really it, my friends. Super easy, not a lot of supplies. So I hope you enjoyed today's project, and if you did, subscribe, leave me a comment. If you have any questions, I will get back to you as soon as possible. And stick around for the conversation at the end. It's a good one about the word gather. Now, I love that word, and there's some unexpected definitions of the word gather. So hope you stick around for the conversation at the end, and I hope you enjoyed the project, and I will see you next week. Well, hello, loves. Happy Sunday to you. And I love, love, love this. I am so excited about the new stencils that are out now as you see this video. They're so much fun. I had so much fun designing these. Oh my gosh. So before I went over everything in the video, and this was just super fun to do. Easy stencils as your guide. So before we jump into the meaning of this, the inspiration, let me just quickly, let's see, let me put this, I don't think that's going to work. I wanted to show you real quick the stencil. So let me see, hang on a second. Okay, I just wanted to put something down so that you could actually see them a little bit better. So there is a truck stencil, and I had actually painted this like over a year ago, and I used this as my template for creating the stencil. But the truck is so cute, so I did, let me see, I just played a little bit. Let me see if I can find it. Oh my gosh, I'm so disorganized. Ay, ay, ay. Holy cow, what's going on here? Oh, here it is. Okay. So I did this. This is the stencil. And I used plaid for the background. Look at how cute that is. So I've got big plans to create with that. I just love it. So there's truck stencil. These are for fall. This is fall words too: apple cider, crackling fire, crunchy leaves, crisp morning, chilly nights, cozy sweater, pumpkin everything. Another different version of a cotton stem. And then this is the cotton stem that I used today. And the farmhouse picture, which I love. I'll be using that a ton, not just for fall. And then all different kinds of pumpkins. I just wanted to do some really good fall pumpkins. Cute, cute. And then the leaves. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the leaves come with the masks. So I'm going to be doing a video. Well, it'll probably be out by the time you see this. I'm going to kind of experiment with all the new stencils. But the masks for all the leaves, I think would work wonderful with sprays. And let's see, another fall words: pumpkin patch, hello fall, welcome fall harvest, gather. This is the one I used. And then a variety of pumpkins, and I did small ones because I want to put some pumpkins in the back of this truck. Cute! I can't wait! So yeah, so there, I think there's 10 or 11 new stencils just for fall, so you can check those out. And the stencils that I used today, even though they're brand new, will be on sale. So you can gather those up, if you would like. So, okay, let me get my notes, try and gather myself again. So, I obviously wanted to create something fallish with the new stencils, but I was also really kind of contemplating this word gather because I have it all over the house. And so in my true fashion, I did a search for the word, and there are a couple that really spoke to me because I was trying to understand what this meant for me and this season, this time of year. This time of year is always really very contemplative for me, even more so than maybe the first of the year. We're coming towards the end of the year, and I'm kind of reflecting. We're coming into holidays, seasons are changing. There's just lots of change during this time of year, for me anyway. But the dictionary says that gather means to come together. It means, oh, here's my favorite, to bring together and take in from scattered places. I love that. To embrace, to enfold, to hug, to gather in, to pick up and gather, to summon up strength or an attribute for a purpose. Gather your strength for a purpose. So much goodness. to rally around, to draw, and to hold together. And as I started really kind of reflecting over that, it really kind of made sense for me as this season is upon us, as we're transitioning out of summer into fall. I always kind of get really reflective and contemplative and that kind of thing. And I think it's because I'm gathering together myself. I mean, summer is always kind of crazy, and there's always kinds of activities and different things. And the first of the year is all these things. And it's kind of this calming coming together for me in this season. And to summon together my whatever I'm feeling, my mental, my physical attributes for a purpose, and to gather those things together from scattered places. So, I've just felt super scattered and super busy, and it's kind of a slowing down, a slowing time, even though the schedule doesn't say it's slowing down. For me, I'm just kind of feeling like home and wanting to be home, and really kind of fixing the house and doing different things like that. And like the kids will be coming home for the fall and different things like that on different trips. And so I'm just kind of feeling this slowdown in my spirit, in my soul. And I love this time because it kind of brings all the pieces together and gives me a little bit of peace. And I can breathe a little bit deeper, and I feel more restful, even though I'm still busy. I don't know what it is. I don't know why that is. I'm sure there's reasons for seasons and stars and moons and all of those things. But for me, it's just kind of a slowing down and a peacefulness of gathering myself together and preparing myself for what's to come. And I want to encourage you today, in all of life's craziness, to take a moment to gather yourself, to get that peace, to grow that space within you where you can breathe deep and rest and gather up yourself, gather up your loved ones, and just be. And that's what this means for me, to me. I just love it. I love the description of gather. And so this Sunday, I hope it's restful for you. I hope it's peaceful. I hope you can gather that inner calm that I think we all so much want and need. And I hope that you just have a wonderful Sunday, and I hope that you always know that you are loved.